A woman fell from a height of 200 m to the ground. Miraculously, she was still alive. But unlike what people often say about miracles when someone is lucky enough to overcome a disaster, although the girl is still alive, she is tormented to the extreme by physical pain and betrayal from her husband, whom she has always loved dearly. Investigators also said that throughout his career, the perpetrator of this case is the most brutal murderer that everyone has ever seen. You are following the case of a woman who miraculously survived a fall from a height of thousands of meters on the Thrilling Story channel. And as usual, if this story leaves an impression on you, click to follow the channel and turn on the notification bell to update the most classic cases around the world. First, let's go back in time to 2015. In England, there is an extremely famous tourist destination, attracting millions of visitors every year. Today's case happened at the Nature Haven skydiving site. They were once a dream couple with a fairy tale love story. The husband, Elman, was a successful British Army officer, and his wife Victoria was a professional skydiving instructor. With 2,600 skydivings in her career, she was also a physiotherapist in the British Army. They met in the army, fell in love and quickly dated. 2 years later, they got married and Victoria had 2 children. Since becoming pregnant with her second child, Victoria had stopped skydiving. When the baby was 4 weeks old, Elman encouraged her to return to her passion. Victoria was quite surprised by her husband's proposal. Because Elman was always busy with work, Victoria felt a little rift in their relationship. Therefore, she happily agreed to go on a date with her husband. On Easter 2015, the couple went to the skydiving center at Nature Haven. This is a very famous place with thousands of visitors every year. Of course, this is also a place that Victoria often goes to. That day, the weather was not really favorable. The visibility was obstructed, the couple had to lower the altitude to experience. However, Victoria was still extremely excited, because it had been a year since she had been able to live her passion. When the plane reached an altitude of 4,000 feet, equivalent to about 1,200 meters, Victoria could not hide her excitement. She was the last of the 12 people to skydive at that time. The moment Victoria left the plane, a familiar feeling of joy appeared. With her experience, after 3 seconds of free fall in the air, Victoria began to open her parachute. With more than 10 years of being attached to this sport, Victoria was not panicked. She decided to cut the main parachute cord and activate the backup parachute later. The worst happened, even the backup parachute could not open. Victoria fell freely in the air. The falling speed at this time reached nearly 100 kilometers per hour. From a height of 1,200 meters, no one thought that Victoria would survive. Even the center staff had prepared a body bag in case of the worst case. However, when they arrived at the scene of the accident, Victoria was still alive. She herself could not believe that she was still alive. She had a broken spine, pelvis, ribs, damaged internal organs and many other external wounds. The examination results showed that Victoria was able to continue living completely thanks to luck. It could be because her body was quite small, if not very thin and light. Therefore, the kinetic energy of the fall was not large. Secondly, although the spare trap was not opened, it also played a role in slowing down her fall. Victoria's 12 years of skydiving experience also helped her manage to fall more slowly. And most importantly, the place where Victoria fell was a soft, newly dug grass carpet, which became a softer cushion when she landed. Everyone agreed that there must be something fishy about this accident. Obviously, skydiving is an extreme sport. Once an accident occurs, the player will hardly be able to survive or may be disabled for life. Skydiving equipment is always attached to human life, so it always has an extremely high level of safety. Parachute failure is very rare in the world, and it is even rarer for both the main and auxiliary parachutes to malfunction at the same time. The most recent accident was also 10 years ago. On August 4, 2003. At that time, Hilda was 20 years old, skydiving from an altitude of 13,000 feet, equivalent to nearly 4,000 meters. The parachute did not work, leading to the sad end of the young man's life. At that time, investigators believed that this was not an accident. Hilda herself cut off the parachute to end her life. Therefore, looking back at what Victoria had experienced, anyone would have doubts. The parachuting club was also very confident in its equipment. They had regularly inspected it according to regulations, and this kind of accident had never happened before. After examining Victoria's parachute, experts concluded that there was indeed a problem with the equipment. The parachute was missing an important part, but it was definitely someone who had deliberately sabotaged it, wanting to kill her. It was also possible that Victoria wanted to commit suicide in this way, but this hypothesis was quickly dismissed. Victoria was a happy woman. She had a nice house, 2 small children and a warm family. In addition, when the main parachute failed to open, she immediately used the backup parachute to save herself. Such a strong will to live did not match someone so desperate that they wanted to commit suicide. And indeed, the British Parachute Association concluded that someone had sabotaged the parachute. They went to Victoria and asked her to report it to the police. Her husband also encouraged her to do so. And the investigation really found some surprising things. This parachute accident turned out to be a meticulously planned murder. The police's first suspect was the skydiving club staff. They could easily approach and impact Victoria's parachute. Perhaps in her previous experiences she had conflicts and became someone's enemy. But the investigation results showed that Victoria was a very good person. The staff all loved her very much. It was clear that this skydiving club had absolutely no motive to do such a stupid thing. But then, a close friend of Victoria provided an important clue. It turned out that Victoria's relationship with her husband was not as good as everyone saw. Victoria and her husband were in a tense period. Domestic violence, even her husband controlled Victoria in a pathological way for a long time. Therefore, the police immediately identified Elman as a suspect and launched an investigation. On April 28, 2015, the police came to the military barracks to take Elman for questioning. He did not appear to be panicked, but rather calm. Elman admitted to having an affair and taking Victoria's umbrella into the bathroom. However, he did not admit to destroying the umbrella. And because there was no evidence, the police were forced to release Elman, but he was forbidden from returning home because he could endanger Victoria. The police then went to Victoria and told her that her husband was probably the culprit. At this time, Victoria had just been discharged from the hospital. This was an extremely difficult time for her, because she was wearing a neck brace and had to take care of 2 young children. Victoria tried very hard to maintain this marriage. Although she felt that her husband no longer cared about the family, she thought it was just a matter of feelings. Victoria did not want to believe that her husband, the father of her children, wanted to kill her. Victoria told the police that early one morning in late March 2015, a week before the two went skydiving, she smelled gas while preparing food for the children. When she checked the gas pipe, she found a strange red streak at the joint. It was obvious that someone had done something to the pipe. Coincidentally, the day before, Elman had told her that he would go to the barracks that evening instead of going home to avoid traffic the next morning. Victoria immediately sent a text message to her husband. Elman joked at this time, thinking that Victoria was just teasing him. The police also questioned Elman about this matter. And of course he completely denied it. The investigation team could only turn to the authorities to find out about the gas pipeline clue. And up to this point, there was still no evidence strong enough to arrest this suspicious husband. But not long after that, the harsh truth finally came out. The investigation team traced all the surrounding relationships and retrieved data from Elman's phone. In fact, he was in debt. In addition to Victoria's savings being wiped out, he also borrowed money from friends and credit companies. The estimated debt was nearly £22,000. Since the marriage, Victoria had always paid all her husband's bills. But Elman, a spendthrift, was never satisfied. A year after marrying Victoria, he began secretly withdrawing money from his wife's account. He withdrew £6,000, or more than $7.5 in 3 times. Elman loved luxury and flashy things on the outside. He also only plays expensive sports such as golf, skiing, and mountain climbing without caring whether he can afford it or not. Moreover, Elman has a rather complicated love life. When he was young, he lived in South Africa in a well-off family. His father ran a construction company. After graduating, Elman became a contractor, working at the family company. At this time, he met his first love, named Nicolene. The two of them were childhood friends. When they started dating, Nicolene was only 13 years old. In 2000, when she was 16, the two had their first child. Not long after, Nicolene became pregnant again. However, when she was 6 months pregnant, Emin abandoned her and her child to go to England. Before leaving, he promised Nicolene he would return to get married. But as a result, Elman quickly got married in a new country. The bride was Elman's second girlfriend, named Carly, and he joined the army. From then on, Elman threw Nicolene out of his life and he didn't care about the 2 children at all. The two completely cut off contact. In March 2004, Nicolene also moved to England. She didn't want to contact the unfaithful man, but her eldest daughter kept asking about her father. In 2006, Nicolene contacted Elman. When the two met, Elman burst into tears, asking her about the difficulties she had to go through when she came to England alone. He said that the marriage with Carly happened only because his previous visa was about to expire. That he still loved Nicoline in his heart. He would divorce Carly to return to his first love. Looking at his honest appearance, Nicoline thought that her 2 children would have a father. So she chose to forgive. But in fact, Elman never thought about divorce. At that time, he and Carly already had 2 children. Every day, he went back and forth between the 2 women, lying to them over and over again, but in the end, the lie could not be wrapped in paper. Nicoline chose to leave, changed her phone number, and never contacted Elman again, while Carly chose to divorce. Later, Elman met Victoria in the army. After 2 years of dating, they got married, having had a failed marriage. Victoria valued this marriage very much, she truly loved her husband. Knowing this, Elman advised his wife to stay home and control her. During the years of his marriage to Victoria, Elman always had women outside. At first, he continued to secretly date his ex-wife Carly. He also met a new girlfriend named Stephanie from Austria. He lied that Victoria had cheated on him. The paternity test results confirmed that Victoria's child was not his. He swore to Stephanie that he would do anything for her. That he would divorce her to be with her. Elman even publicly took Stephanie back to the military barracks, making everyone think that the marriage between him and Victoria was really over. In January, Elman texted Stephanie, telling her to wait until April so that they could be together without any hesitation. This meant that he had intended to leave his wife since the beginning of 2015. Cheating on 3 women at the same time, Elman was still not satisfied. Whenever he had free time, he would go on adult dating websites to meet other girls. He was also a member of a nearby adult club. The investigation team suspected that the red marks found on the gas pipe were from Elman's injuries when he tried to break the gas pipe. Together with the information they collected, they began to reconstruct the whole incident. Elman was an extremely selfish person. Whether it was his first love or his 2 later wives, he had no feelings even though all 3 had given birth to his children. All he thought about was himself. Elman was always a spendthrift. He asked his wife for money or borrowed money and never thought about paying it back. He borrowed money to travel with Stephanie, leaving his wife and children at home. When the debt reached £22,000, Elman began to pay attention to Victoria's £120,000 personal insurance policy, and this was the motive for the crime. As if sensing something, in 2014, a year before the accident, Victoria changed the beneficiary of her life insurance to her child, but this did not interrupt the plan of this scary husband. For the first time, he removed the gas pipe in her house without thinking about the 2 children. Fortunately, Victoria found out. After the first plan failed, the man impatiently came up with another plan. He used the phone that Victoria had just bought for him, sent a text message inviting her to go skydiving. Victoria thought that her husband was trying to mend their family relationship. So she happily agreed, even though she had just given birth for 4 weeks. They were originally scheduled to go skydiving on April 4th, but the weather was not favorable. Victoria wanted to give up. But Elman encouraged her over and over again. According to the usual procedure, if natural conditions did not allow, they would have to return the parachute to the club and come back to get it the next day. But Elman did not return the parachute. He said that he did not change it many times, but of course, in fact, he secretly destroyed the parachute. The weather was still not very good. However, with Elman's constant encouragement, Victoria decided to skydive at low altitude and the accident happened. At that time, Elman used the excuse of staying to take care of the 2 children to avoid skydiving with Victoria. He witnessed the whole scene of his wife falling straight from a height of 200 m. No one could imagine the cruelty of this husband. The police also questioned Nicoline, Elman's first girlfriend. She was happy that she had left the liar early. After 2 years of investigation, a lot of evidence was found, but all of it was circumstantial evidence. It was not easy to convict Elman. At the first trial, Victoria did not want to believe all of this. She even appeared in court to defend her husband. This led to the failure of the conviction. To let Victoria see the true face of her beloved husband, the prosecution showed her all 32,000 messages on Elman's cell phone. Only then did Victoria believe that Elman really wanted to kill her. In the second trial, the jury deliberated for 3 days. Finally, the verdict was given. Elman was convicted of 2 counts of attempted murder of Victoria, sentenced to life in prison and not allowed to apply for early release for 18 years. In court, when standing in front of the bar, Elman was still confident and neat. All his actions were very calm, without the slightest look of guilt. After the trial ended, Victoria wanted a divorce but Elman refused. He wanted to continue to control his wife in this way. In December 2018, 3 years after the accident, thanks to the encouragement of relatives and friends, Victoria overcame her psychological trauma and completed her favorite sport. Once again she flew through the clouds and Victoria was finally able to escape the past, no longer afraid of skydiving and also had a new love. 5 years after the accident, Victoria published a book about her marriage to Elman. She wrote, "After the judge announced all the details, I finally understood, my husband is a monster. What do you think about today's case? Leave your comments below to discuss together. But before leaving, don't forget to like, choose to follow the channel and turn on the notification bell to update the most classic, thrilling and attractive cases on the channel."